So with the release of the 2025 version of On1 Photo Raw, they included the match color filter. And the question is, does this help or hurt the colors in my image? That's what we're going to explore in today's video. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another video here on Free Will Photos. If you're new to the channel, my name's Chris and I help photographers learn how to use photo editing software through educational content here on YouTube. If that's something you're interested in, consider hitting that subscribe button and hitting the like icon if you get any value out of this video. Now, if you want to pick up On1 Photo Raw and save a little bit of money, then consider using my coupon code FreeWillPhotos20. It'll save you some money when you check out. And last but not least, On1 is getting ready to host their first virtual conference. And if you want to purchase a ticket for that and save a little bit of money, you can also consider using my coupon code. I do make a small commission off of everyone who uses it, and I greatly appreciate it. Now, let's jump into the computer and take a look at how to use the match color tool. All right, so here we are inside of the computer, and this is the image straight out of camera, no edits applied. Now, the first thing that I recommend everyone does when they use match color is still use Brilliance AI, because it's going to help you get those tones. So let's go ahead and click that, and it's going to activate Brilliance AI for me. Now, it went faster this time because I did already apply Brilliance AI, and then I just turned it off. But with that being said, I didn't change anything on the settings, and I'm not going to, because I think that this is the best place to start when it comes to applying match color. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to effects. And if you want to apply match color, you can go ahead and hit add filter and then come down to the match color filter. Now, as you can see, I already threw 3 of them on here. We're going to start with the first one and really walk through it. So let's go ahead and expand that, turn it on, and you can see already it's doing something to the image. What? Not entirely sure. All right, but we're going to talk about it. So no different than any of the other filters inside of On1. You have opacity, and that's just very straightforward. So I'm going to leave that at 100% for the sake of this tutorial, but just know that you can come back and change that later. And then of course you have styles. Now, styles is also no different than any other filter inside of On1. We are used to having that. Where the match color filter gets a little bit different is this portion here, which is the actual matching of the color. And essentially what this is doing is it's taking colors from a reference image and overlaying them or mapping them over the image that you are working on. All right. So what you can see that it's doing here, this is the reference image, and I did get the image. Make sure that it's licensed legally, especially if you're going to resell it. Like, don't do anything crazy. Now, here's how you would use match color. First, you would click on the reference section, and then you would come all the way down here to load file, and you would navigate to wherever you have your reference image saved to your computer. You definitely want to make sure that you have the images saved to your computer, hard drive, whatever, so that way you can go ahead and select them. Now, you can see here, I actually have more than a handful really, of images that I already referenced, and they save in the recent photos section. That's really helpful, but notice that when you hover over them, you don't actually get a preview. I'll show you how you can get a preview a little bit later. But with that being said, once you select the image, you'll get the preview of the image right here, and then it impacts the image. Then that leaves us with these 4 sliders, and these sliders are very straightforward. If you've used any editing software in the past, I think you'll be familiar with at least the bottom 2 sliders here, but the luminosity and the color sliders are really simple. If I pull the color slider to the right, it's just going to increase that color mapping over the entire image. Now remember, I do have the opacity of this particular filter set to 100%. So essentially I'm telling On1 to take the references out of this image and map them over the entire image without any real regard to the underlying colors. So if I were to turn this off and then turn it back on, you can see it's just kind of brightening things up over here, making them more yellow, a little bit more faded. It's not as saturated overall. Again, I am kind of partial to the original colors. I think that those look good, but that's just because I chose a reference image that has a lot of yellow in it, and it's mapping yellow over the image. Let's go ahead and reset that back to 50. And then obviously if I pull this down to the left, it's going to take less of that color out of the image. And this could be very helpful if all you really wanted to do was take the tonal range of an image and kind of map that over your photo. So this image has like some really bright highlights and then some darker shadows. And as I pull up on the luminosity, you can see it's getting brighter. And then as I pull down on the luminosity, it's getting less bright. It's that simple, right? So we'll double click and reset these. And then of course, contrasting, if I pull up, I'm going to add more contrast into the image. And if I pull down, I'm going to remove it. And then the last thing here is saturation. If I pull up on the saturation, it's going to add more of the colors or saturate the colors. I shouldn't say add more, because this is where the volume slider for the colors is located. But if I find that they're just not being saturated enough when I increase the colors, then I have a saturation slider that allows me to increase the volume on the colors that are being mapped. Hopefully that makes sense. I promise once you start playing around with this tool, it's super easy. It's user-friendly. It's not one of those complicated tools as some things could be. All right. This really is a easy tool. Now, when do you grab this tool? I'll tell you, you could grab it at any point in your workflow. I have found that I can use this at the beginning of my workflow to help with inspiration. And then I can also use this at the end of my workflow to help with finishing or polishing an image. It just depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve with that photo. But earlier I mentioned that you could actually get a preview. Unfortunately, you can't preview any of these images down here, but let's just go ahead and select this one. And you'll see that this is a very drastically different image than the one that's being referenced right now. So we'll let that load in, and you can see it's trying to go find that Paint Mines CR3. Now, this actually brings me to a good point. You can use raw images from your catalog. I don't know if raw images are the best images to use because those usually don't have the colors that you want. So you probably want something that has a color space that's rendered to it. Raw images don't have that because it's raw data. But if you wanted the raw image look, then you could definitely grab that and put that on there. But for the sake of the tutorial, let's say that this is something that I want, but I want to be able to preview this. All right. Well, what I can do is come over here to styles and then come down to the bottom and click save new style. Now I'm going to label this CR3 style and then hit return. Now I'm going to select a different style. So if you see, I have a blue sky style up at the top here. When I click on the more underneath the styles, the items that are above the break are the ones that you create yourself. And you can see I actually selected a few different images or created a few different styles here. So let's go ahead and click on the camping look one. And you can see what it's doing to the image. But if I hit the drop down again, and then I come back to the CR3 style, you can see that I'm getting a reference of what that looks like. And this could be extremely helpful, especially if you're using this tool a lot and there's a particular look that you find works well with a variety of images, then you definitely could create that look over here. Just give it a better descriptive name than what I gave it. Now, let me go ahead and turn off this one and show you a few other reference images. So the next one is going to be this second image here, which I think that this looks the best on this particular image. And I do recommend you work with this tool in the way that I'm doing it, where I'm kind of demoing different looks in different instances of the match color filter. Because what I can do is I can literally just turn that off, turn this one on, and then it's like, okay, well, do I like that? Maybe, maybe not. Do I like this? Maybe, maybe not. And I also like the match color number 3. And look at how that's kind of blending. Like these are two different reference images that I'm using to really grow the look in my image. Now, one of the cool things about using the match color that I do want to point out in this particular tutorial is you could move these underneath each other and it's not going to change the look, at least not drastically, if it did at all. And that is a behavior that's very, very different than any of the other tools whenever you create a effects stack. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't really matter where you stack these, as long as if you like the look of two match color filters with two different reference images, then you can definitely work with them this way. I found that to be really helpful and fun when I'm working inside of ON1. But again, that's why I believe it lends itself to either putting it at the beginning of your workflow when you come into the effects module, or at the very end of your workflow as a polishing effect. So with that being said, if you want to learn more about ON1 Photo Raw, go ahead and click the videos that are popping up on the screen now. If you want to save some money on ON1 Photo Raw or the ON1 Unleashed conference, which is happening in February 2025, consider using the coupon code FreeWillPhotos20. If you got questions, leave it down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear if you are using ON1 Photo Raw match color in your images. Until next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.